So I asked you tomorrow. I asked you yesterday that let's talk about AI and AGI and ASI. First of all, like in terms of
Superintelligence.
intelligence.
ASI.
Yeah, ASI, artificial superintelligence. And I want you to talk about intelligence, the term of intelligence. Like regular people always like think that AI is super intelligent agent or system. So, and then I want to ask you about AGI and what are the differences between them. Then we talk about ASI.
In the very end.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes a lot of sense, yes.
Yeah. So my question is...
I just gave it in my lecture on cognitive architecture, so what is intelligence really, right?
Yeah.
And it is it's a very complex story. An animal that survives in its world doesn't think much about its world, how it's structured, how it really works, but happily survives, is already to a certain extent intelligent, right?
Yeah, like...
But we want to move to a different level today, really, right? So the intelligence that we are really thinking about is in the end more a structure that fosters understanding. So maybe intelligence is more something that can understand the processes, the world that the system is interacting with, and of course, using this understanding can solve problems in this world more effectively, more adaptively, more flexibly than a system that doesn't understand.
Nice. So, do you think that humans are intelligent?
Well, I mean, we all believe that we understand the world to a certain extent, but if we are honest with ourselves, we also must admit that we certainly do not understand the world in all its details. Certainly on many, many expert levels, on a molecular level, if you think about it, on an atomic level, on a relativity level, but also on the social level, on the political level. I mean, our understandings on all these areas are limited.
Yeah, nice. Let's not talk about people who are genius. I don't want to talk about like the levels of intelligence. Okay, let's talk about like the regular intelligence.
Right.
A human being can understand the world around. A human being can like make a sandwich, the midnight sandwich. Can like solve to some extent also like a complex or complicated like situations and issues, and can solve some math, some equations, and like then like okay.
And they can read.
Yeah.
And write, most of us.
Yeah, and lead their dogs, their animals, feed stuff, clean stuff, enhance and use the power.
Understand how money works.
Yeah, so let's say this is the fundamental intelligence that we are talking about.
Yes, pretty much.
Like not Einstein. And
not Einstein, yes.
Yeah, right. Not Einstein level. Nice. Is AI system is a intelligent system?
How intelligent is the AI now in these respects?
Yeah.
So far we don't have robots that roam around and just do whatever they like, luckily, maybe, yeah. But if you look at ChatGPT, if you look at large language models, I would say they have a different form of intelligence, right?
Yeah.
They have a lot of basically all the textual world knowledge they have is intelligence, and they might also be certainly able to tell you how you should prepare a coffee or how you typically walk your dog.
Yeah.
But I wonder if they can tell you really in particular situations when your dog does something funny, or when your coffee maker doesn't really work right now, if it really can tell you exactly where you should check what to fix the situation, right? So this standard, intuitive, simplistic world knowledge that we have while we roam around in our world and get stuck because our pencil is not sharpened and we want to write something down, and then we just need to search for a pencil sharpener and find it and use it. This simple forms of intuitive problem solving that we all have is at least not directly available from an AI.
Okay, so nice. This is like general answer for AI. Let's like go deep to the AI and for the let's like define the terminologies behind, like around AI. What is AI?
What is artificial intelligence?
Yeah.
Well, it is an artificial system that roams around in a computer and that gets questions and produces answers.
So this is the main job for AI, to produce and generate answers and do mission.
In the end, if you think about it, it is probably right. I mean, it is. If you let it play a game, and it gives you the answer how you should act in the game. If you ask it about some world knowledge, it produces an answer to this world knowledge. If you ask it a puzzle question, it tries to generate the answer to the puzzle question.
Nice. So this is AI, but it's not just in computer. It could be like, of course, it's like a system, like it's software, but also it could be in any hardware, in a robot, in a car, in a plane.
Sure, definitely.
In a laptop.
I mean, the computer is in all these systems, right? In our cell phones, it is in the laptop, it is in the car. There's also, I mean, that depending on which car you have, there's more or less AI in there. But right.
What are the kinds of AI? Generative, predictive.
Various kinds.
Yeah.
Right. So there's, I mean, in your car, you have so many components. I mean, I was thinking more about large language models now. So what they are generative, these are generative AI systems that are trained mainly in autoregressive manner to produce text continuations. And then they are additionally fine-tuned with reinforcement learning components or reward oriented components, user feedback that is the reward for these systems. So these are generative AI systems. You have simple classification AI that is just trained to say, okay, for example, in a video or in an image, which objects are present in that image. So it's simple classification, but also more from the medical domain, for example. Is this tissue maybe cancerous or not? So these are classification systems. And then you have recurrent dynamic systems that have a little bit more than an autoregressive system that just is tuned to produce the next output. Really that maintains an internal predictive generative structure, a latent state structure that typically tries to reflect or maintain representations of those things in the environment that are currently not visible.
You are using
too many terms.
Too many terms. Scientific terms.
Okay. Well, you asked me which types of AI, so it's a lot of stuff.
Who knows what does it mean autoregression? What does it mean autoregression?
Okay, autoregression. There we go. Okay, so autoregression is an AI system that is trained to predict the continuation of a sequence.
Yeah. So it's
of a data sequence.
And it's going in a regression way.
So it's trying to regress to the dynamics that it's trained on.
In an automatic mode.
fashion, yes.
Oh, oh, nice. So, like, for example, an autopilot.
Well, so this is, there you really have a control component in it yet.
Okay, yeah.
So an autoregressive system is typically not really actively controlling a process,
yeah.
but it's just trying to mimic, so to say, the dynamics of that process.
Yeah.
An autopilot, or also a self-driving car, right,
yeah.
is controlling the car or the plane. So it's controlling a process with a particular objective in mind or in its system, such as like stay on the road, or
don't crash this boy.
Don't crash the boy, and move. So possibly reach the goal location or land properly.
I want to go like ask you a very odd question, like if an autopilot crash a boy, who's gonna go to the jail?
That's an open discussion, right? This is why there is at least there's a lot of law discussions about this, right?
Just playing a human driver, because usually drivers are sleeping or playing or watching movies during the autopilot. However, we'll talk about this later.
Huge discussion how to deal with this problem,
exactly,
right? And that's why you don't have fully autonomous cars, really, or hardly any, and only in California there's some special rules that they roam around partially.
Ah, really? California, where is mask? So like.
Yeah, it's parts of it. I'm not fully certain what exactly the rules are. But
do you trust autopilot cars?
I mean, do I trust them? No.
Are they safe?
I think they are safe to that degree that they are allowed to be driven by autopilot. That's why usually you have the situation that you should be alert as the person that sits behind the wheel and can take over at any point in time, because clearly any autopilot right now still is not guaranteed to be able to handle with all really unusual long tail, one says, distribution situations that are never in the training set.
And this takes me back to my first question, like is AI intelligent or no? So like in a way, the autopilot system is designed to deal with a train situation that if this system faces these situations can solve it and like can solve it and like manipulate them and like
right. The thing is that these systems, these autopilot systems right now, they don't really have an understanding of the environment, right?
This
so
is
they'll be back with the understanding. We said intelligence understanding, and I would claim that none of these systems right now have a true understanding of the environment.
So,
but what is understanding? Ask then.
Now we can conclude that AI in the autopilot systems are not intelligent.
And also in the autoregressive system, in that sense, are not really intelligent. Right?
So, good. So let's go to AI and like terminologies and definitions. So like we know now what is AI, and AI is either a generative system or predictive system, right? Predict what is gonna happen, like with like probability theory and like.
With predictive one, the term is a little bit ambiguous, unfortunately, because sometimes you use predictive AI for systems that classify stuff.
Yeah.
So these are just then trained in a supervised manner, so to say. So you give a lot of training data set, and you basically tell what's supposed to be the output, and then they train for this, and then they generate for new input like that class, that classification. That's also sometimes called predictive. But what I mean really with predictive is like a generative predictive system is a system that internally maintains a predictive model of what is happening outside. Next and in the future at some point. Not necessarily only delta t next, next immediate step, but maybe also sometime in the future, right?
And this is how like the chess system and the Go.
Go and chess somewhat have this in them, but they are still only, I mean, they are not intelligent. They don't have explicit representations or that really tells them, okay, how do things look like?
So like even Go system, chess systems are not intelligent, but they can predict all the future steps, and they like faster, more faster, way far.
I mean,
faster.
They are domain-specific experts for their game, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, you could say that the Mu0 or AlphaZero, AlphaGo game algorithms, right? They, in the sense, understand parts of the game, like because they have good evaluation functions. Will this player win the game or lose, given that board situation? They have an understanding how they can move the pieces, or what their actions are in the game, and what are the consequences of these actions, and how the board situation changes due to these consequences. So in this sense, they have some form of understanding of the game. But these games are, although Go is immensely complex and for us humans really hard to play also, and that's why I consider it also a very highly intelligent challenge for us humans. It's still just a board game, right? There is one game, it progresses, there are rules. If you wipe off the stones, the game is over. If you continue until the end, at some point the board is full, or anybody gives up and says, okay, you win, you lose, and you can do the counting, and that's it, right? There is nothing like a continuous world that has day and night, and where creatures need to eat and sleep and so forth, and all this continuous stuff that happens in segments of over time. Right? We eat in a particular time of the day, we talk, we work, we move from one place to another, and so forth, right? These segments are so much more diverse and complex than a little game like Go.
Yeah, and suddenly in the middle of the day you have like emotional conversation with someone, and you need to bring something will never could be generated by ChatGPT, for example, like a very heavy, intense, emotional conversation.
Right.
And then like ChatGPT will lose or like fail the test of talking emotionally, right? Understanding the feelings, but we human can understand, and we'll go back again to the understanding.
Surprisingly, it is on the surface you can also even ask ChatGPT such questions, and it will answer them reasonably well and say, okay, probably this person has some issues and so forth, right? But really the deeper emotional sense and the understanding also in the social empathetic level, how that other person feels and why he feels like this, right? I mean, this certainly I would say is not accessible to these systems at all.
So like let's take away predictive systems, AI systems, and like autoregression, autopilot stuff, and go to the second part of AI, which is now very famous and very popular, which is like generative AI, which generate conversations, texts, and answers.
So large language models,
large language models,
and so forth.
Like GPT, ChatGPT, and Gemini, and others. Are they smart, intelligent? Because most of the people around me think like they really are intelligent, but like, are they?
That thing, yeah.
Aren't they?
Well, are they? I mean, they are to a certain extent, clearly, right? They can generate you code, they can generate for you solutions to problems, they have knowledge that none of individual people have. So in that sense, they are much intelligent. To a deeper form of understanding, no.
Okay.
Simple answer, no. Complex answer, well, they show some form of that. They seem to mimic the understandings that is written down in all text copy in Wikipedia, in so many textbooks, and also in the end also in novels and so forth, right? There's all understanding is played out in all of these stories, so certainly they will reflect these forms of understanding. and will to deep extent be seemingly able to understand stuff, but is it true understanding? I would say no. And why? Because there is not really a model and ability of the systems that could really explain in depth. I mean, this problem is they can mostly explain in depth what they are talking about, but the representational structure and the internal state space, these latent activities of these models, they don't, or very limitedly, seem to really show forms of understanding or representations of understanding.
Yeah, yesterday in the lecture, a student asked me that, like, or he was insisting that, like ChatGPT or LLMs systems have reasoning
right
mechanism. But like my answer was like, it looks like a human-like reasoning, but it's not reasoning. Then like he asked me like, could you please explain the mechanism how like DeepSeek or ChatGPT work? I told him like, you need to ask Martin. You are asking like a PhD researcher. This is a question for a professor. So what is or are the similarities between all AI systems?
Well, I mean, cannot say all AI systems, but trying to explain it as simple as possible what a large language model really is or does, right?
Yeah.
It it gets text as input.
Yeah.
Clear.
I told you nice in
that,
Arabic.
You know, it might still get like some other inputs like images or so forth. Then it first embeds this text on very low levels, like usually chunks of letters, into an embedding space. So it, so to say, it translates this character level spatial encoding into
weights,
into via weights into an activity, and latent first layer internal activity, so to say, that basically recodes just the input.
Let's
like
give
a
an
common
example.
Format. Yeah.
Who is Einstein?
So who is so right? But you could say, okay, the WH, for example, right, is this thing that often comes in English, right, for questions and many other words. So WH is probably going to be encoded together into a code that basically says, well, probably a question word, right?
And this go in one neuron.
And that comes in that gets into a vector that maybe is 1000-dimensional or 100-dimensional, and basically says, okay, this is probably this kind of thing. Yeah. And then the O is just a standard letter, and then combined with WH, right, it becomes the question word. And that also then helps you if there's a spell error, right? And so maybe somebody put an L after the O still or whatever, but meant it to write who, right? Then it's still OL would be reasonably close to O, and so it would still realize, okay, it's probably just who as the question, right? And so just wipes out that spelling error easily. On the very low level.
Just ignoring it.
Just ignoring
without
it,
any
so
explanation.
Yeah, exactly. But it's still there also represented, so if somebody really asks for, well, can you do a spell check for me, right, then it would also be able to grab onto that information that there was this additional L. So it's this chunking, right, and then basically, we have many layers of analysis after this embedding or chunked embedding, and that's usually called the transformer architecture or self-attention architecture, which means that it takes these chunks and it relates them to each other. And there is a very important mechanism that is on all these layers, always applicable basically, and that's the query key value system. So sounds simple or confusing, I don't know, but so you have a query and a key value pair, you can think of it. Yeah?
Of course it's confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's why it's also called attention, because the query is basically saying, what do I want to attend to? So, say, for example, if the word who comes, right, it might ask for, well, about what is the who about, right?
Yeah.
So Einstein, right?
Yeah.
For example, right?
Yeah.
So it might send out a query, give me a subject that the who is really asking about. Yeah?
So
and then the Einstein component says, here I'm the subject.
Yeah.
So my key is like I'm the main subject of the sentence. Yeah? And then this connects, and the value is Einstein, and the person.
So it brings Einstein's
so
knowledge.
So we know that it's about a person or a physician, Einstein, basically.
Yeah. Then it brings the knowledge of Einstein, every information about him,
and then well, then it's just basically, this is the one layer basically then says, okay, this question is about Albert Einstein, for example.
Yeah.
Right? And it would have then the code that the main topic here is about Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
And then the next layer can basically say, well, topic is about Albert Einstein. Is there an answer above, or there's no answer? So I should generate autoregressively as the next basic information about Albert Einstein. So maybe it decides that it generates the first sentence, Albert Einstein is a physics genius, or what, right? And that would be then the continuation.
And because Einstein is very famous, so like the weight of the word of Einstein is so like maybe 0.9. So it's not
as we have done ourselves right now, right? I mean, we've never talked about. You didn't tell me that you mean the most famous person of that name, but you just said Einstein, and there we go, right? So also we do this.
Yeah,
right?
and this is what differentiates you and LLMs, the ChatGPT. Why? When I told you who is Einstein, your reaction was like, oh. So then, like, you got like an emotional reaction. It was an arousal.
Even so, because it's a significant personality.
And you have also like, exactly, it activated you. Like, but ChatGPT doesn't have this arousal. Like, ChatGPT doesn't take, who is Einstein? Oh, I will give you a nice answer. No, it's like just like numbers, seeing the who is Einstein and bringing stuff.
Nonetheless, it would probably write in the very first sentences that it's a very famous person, right? So it would use these words that indicate a significant personality, right? And but certainly it doesn't have the emotional arousal.
I have a question like related to this, relating to this. Like sometimes when I ask ChatGPT a question, I get like, oh, what a great question. This cliché.
Yeah.
Is it like programmed to be used like aside the neural network and like the attention system, or it's just like something like they added to look like a human-like answer?
I wonder that myself. I mean, we don't know. The companies don't reveal how much they fine-tuned and how much comes out of the system itself. I can though imagine, right, if you have been to scientific talks, right, there is this behavior of certain groups of people that basically, when they are asked a question, their first phrase is, "This is a really good question," right? And that's a rather stereotypic phase that you see in many talks. Many of these talks and question-answer sessions are recorded and streamed and put into text, right? And so ChatGPT and so forth is trained also obviously on this text copy. And so this might in fact just emerge out of the system that it has generated this, and then possibly these groups of people that like to answer questions first with saying, what a great question, find it nice that the system also does this, so they also positively evaluate this, and so it comes out, right?
Okay, it's also weights.
So it might be a combination of
Okay,
corpus,
cliché,
and playing it out and being rewarded for playing it out. Yeah?
Nice, because the only time I faced such a like a phrase that I have to use it when I was preparing myself for IELTS, like when the examiner asks you a question and you need to think about it, like just use the cliche. Oh, what a nice question. Could you please repeat it? So
I have never heard that one, but that was great.
So is in any way ChatGPT or LLMs like Gemini or DeepSeek understand the environment, the world in any way?
I mean, to a certain extent, they seem to do understand it, right? Because the text copy that I trained on, as I said, right, contain a lot of understanding, a lot of world knowledge. They make it explicit or it's implicit in the stories that are presented, right?
Okay.
They are trained on transcribed recordings of talks, of conferences, of so many things, right? Everywhere there's understanding. So it's the big question that we are facing nowadays, right? Is will these systems, just by scaling it up further, maybe by feeding multimodal information to them, will in this attention structures that relate stuff to each other, right? Will in that core of the structures, will there really be understanding? Will that structure be so powerful that it actually really is understanding? I don't think so, because there are a couple of things missing that seem to be happening in our human brain, but it's not guaranteed that it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and it's obvious when we can see the cognitive gaps in the answer of the ChatGPT or any LLM system.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many papers that show so many gaps and failures and false information that is suddenly created, like hallucinations, which we don't like so much as the term, but it's and so clearly that all indicates that the system is just making up the text. It's making up amazingly good text to a large extent, but it's this understanding behind it is not really there.
Yeah. Before I ask you my cliché question, I want to say something, or I want you to explain to the audience the train phase of the AI systems.
Yes.
They need to be trained.
They are trained to immensely much of data.
Yeah.
Right? That's why it also takes so much energy, because the training really is a big thing. Of course, now if a large language model is really used on a daily level by nearly everybody in this world, right? Then that also takes quite some energy then, right? But particularly when you have reasoning involved there still. But the training is still the main bottleneck, or that's why it only can be done by really big companies. Although see DeepSeek, not so big companies that do a little bit more focused, clever design, maybe. But the training is that what we talked before about autoregression, right? So they take text copy or question answer text copy and so forth, and they then train the system of that text corpus, and then autoaggressively continue what comes next and learn to predict what's the most likely next word. Okay. And during testing then, you have essentially predictions, autoaggressive predictions of what are the next words that are typically coming in the text, and that is then used to actually create the output.
Nice. So, they have to be trained on thousands of tons of
millions
data.
Of billions rather, I would say.
Otherwise, there is no one proper answer or proper output out of them. because there is no reasoning, there is no understanding.
Exactly. I mean, you can try the smaller models, even from DeepSeek also. You can install the smallest models on your computer, and you see how it's rather bad it works, right? Yes, exactly. No.
So my cliché question is: on a scale of 10,
okay,
we are humankind. On 0, 5, 10 of the intelligence scale.
So we had this before, but what's 10 is God or what?
Let's say 10 is God.
10 is God.
And 0 the staple.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what are we? We are 1 and GPT is maybe 0.6.
So we are 1. And ChatGPT is 0.6. Nice.
Yes. To give it a little twist here, right?
I
put God to 10.
I bought the answer, yeah. Oh, we need 9 points to achieve the God level.
No, but I mean, maybe we should put it like so: if 10 is human intelligence, right, or human understanding,
if 10 is the human understanding,
and 0 is the table, then then GPT we are on 6. Right?
6,
so
yeah.
Like that, right?
Nice. Well. Okay, the mimicry of the understanding could be 6 on the scale. So this takes me to the AGI. AGI is artificial general intelligence.
Right.
Why you and your fellow professors and scientists in the computer science and cognitive science add the general? Like this is now like it's look like more official.
No, it looks like it takes the general intelligence. Why general? Because you want the system to be generally applicable for any problem, any reasoning problem, world knowledge problem. And I think that's where the term comes from, right? That it's not. Also, historically speaking, you had the system that solved Go or beat humans in Go, right? I mean, this was not a general intelligence, right? It was a focused intelligence for one particular system. You could even say that the large language models are getting more generally intelligent, right? They have lots of facets and so forth. They can even program, they can put your plans or something out there, but they don't have a general reasoning intelligence that can solve all the problems in this world, or can just basically give you plans to achieve whatever you like, right? Yeah. And this artificial general intelligence is essentially an intelligence that can think anything through at least as good as a human being to propose solutions to you.
Oh, wow. So AGI is really intelligent.
AGI doesn't exist right now, but is very intelligent, is essentially more intelligent than a human being. Right?
Oh, so on the scale of 10?
On the scale of 10, it would reach basically beyond 10 then.
Like 15?
No, yeah, that's difficult to say. I mean, before I was making, if we had God on 100, then I don't know. That's where we go to, ASI then, right?
So AI is not intelligent. AGI, and we know now what is it. Like it's a human thinking, not like it's really human.
I would be careful with this. Actually, there's still a difference which doesn't fit on one scale really.
Yeah.
Right? The problem really here is that human intelligence has a lot of social understanding, right? We mentioned empathy before, right? If you can feel what the other person feels, right? If you have the conscious, self-conscious, but also conscious about other people in this world, that you really have that inner feeling, that qualitative feeling in yourself, right? A bodily feeling, right? If you, like an example, I always get a little bit of a shivers when I hear about somebody else getting hurt. Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? So this uncomfortable feeling inside you, right? I mean, this kind of, which is, I would say, is also a part of understanding and a part of intelligence, right? This is probably really a biological part that was given to us to be, for example, socially considered and so forth, usually, that we are willing to help others that are in trouble right now, for example, even if we don't know this person at all. We usually are, right? Then in these cases, right, you have forms of understanding and intelligence that this AGI still might not have. Yeah? It will not have this qualitative feeling of how you feel about stuff and how you understand the world. But nonetheless, it might have the rational understanding, the rational feeling of arguing things through, the rational, not the feeling, the rational thought processes of thinking things through in a deeper way than what we humans can think through.
But do we need this empathized or like
the empathy or the empathy? Yes.
Yeah, AGI. Do we need this system that can feel?
I mean, I just wanted to emphasize that AGI not necessarily and does not need to have these components of human intelligence, right?
Yeah.
So basically, you cannot say if human intelligence is 10 that AGI would be 10 as well, because it's a different 10 kind of, right? Because some aspects of human intelligence, of human beings, right? So that intelligence, that AGI, that can think through deeper than we can and reaches maybe levels 11, 12, 13 of some of intelligence scale. This is one particular scale of intelligence that doesn't reflect all kinds of human being intelligence. Yeah.
Like even humans, there are a lot of like mental diseases or the psychological issues that like
surely
affect the empathic system of us. We don't sympathy.
Some people are much better than others than this, but this was just also that even if you're not socially empathetic, right, you still have this inner feeling of yourself, right? The inner consciousness, basically. And so I would also not necessarily want to argue or go in this argument if an AGI necessarily has a consciousness, right? Definitely not a human consciousness, right? Definitely doesn't have this. It doesn't need to have, or it will most likely not have anything that's close to a human qualitative feeling of consciousness. It might get conscious in that sense that it realizes that it is an entity that can manipulate the world and it can communicate with humans, and humans have an impression of its entity and so forth, but it will not have the qualitative consciousness that we feel, how we feel conscious about ourselves. So these are two separate things, basically.
Yeah, but like, and this is like leads us to the purpose of the AI and AGI.
Yes, that's
in the first place. We need them. We want these tools. We want these systems to help us, not to be like us. We don't need like
pretty much
peer tools that can like stand. A tool that can stand and
exactly. So that's a fun
act like us.
Fun anecdote that a professor in Illinois once said. That basically, humans we can produce ourselves quite well. So why should we build artificial humans, really, right? It's not doesn't really make sense. It's also much less fun and so forth, right? So, but nonetheless, right? So you don't want to necessarily, and we don't want to give these artificial systems the human form of motivation.
I don't think they want it,
and they probably don't want it either. But nonetheless, we have to be very careful which kind of purpose, right, you put into this machine, right, which is something that Stuart Russell has discussed in his Human Compatible book and discusses these days, continues to think deeper on this level, right? So how can we make sure that we create this AGI that is human compatible, that is good for us humans, that serves humanity ideally, and not single people, persons or companies or influential bodies, bodies of structures, right? So how can we do this? And that's a very big open question.
And this also, I want to talk about like another perspective of AGI and AI comparison between them. Like I want to compare on the level of training. And this is the main difference between an AI system and an AGI system. An AI, you need trillions of data. For AGI, you just need to train the system on less, like 3-4 examples. Like for example, like we have an AI system as an autopilot. You need to train the system on the roads and on all situations and all potential accidents.
Right. Ideally, right, to
1 million times.
Cover the long tail distribution and have all the exceptions also in there. And AGI ideally will be able to be confronted with a new situation, right? Because it analyzes that situation, forming an internal model, a latent internal reflection of the outside environment. It might be able, or that's what it would do by definition, then it would be general intelligent and would thus be able to cope with the situation, although it has never seen it in the data set.
Oh. So, like, I need to have a license, driver license, then I can go drive in USA. Even I have been never there.
Never there, right? Yes.
Yeah.
So like, that AGI would essentially
do the same.
Yes.
But AI no.
AI no, right?
Yeah.
I mean that's the difference between these terms, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, the question is if we will
general.
get to this, right? But it's general, exactly. So it can drive everywhere or deal with another currency at any time, and or even imagine creating an own currency. We can do
just upload the license.
Just upload the license, right? Yeah. Or roam around in the internet and access data storage systems and so forth that are you haven't even thought of that it could access those.
So like, yeah.
That's it. So there we move then closer and closer to a superintelligence, right?
Okay, so before we talk about superintelligence, we know now what is the limit of AI. A nice human-like conversation. It can be your conversational partner, as ChatGPT, DeepSeek. It can predict the weather. It can predict what is gonna happen in the market, stock market, for the next 1 month. Okay, and like also it can like do a lot of tasks, but like there is a limit. Okay, what are the applications of AGI?
Yeah, there's incredibly many. I mean, I was surprised how the application of current AI is already blooming and being used for so many ways, and they are more useful than I and many others have ever dreamed of really already now.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so maybe the 6 is also a little bit too low on the application and usefulness level, right? But the AGI will reach a different level, right? It will enable problem solving, tutoring, teaching humans, proposing solutions to problems that we have not really dreamt of ever before.
Treating cancer?
Also that, helping to solve problems. I mean, that's the big hope, right? Solving the energy crisis, solving the CO2 problem in our atmosphere and in our seas, actually, for that matter as well. So solving, offering solutions to fundamental world problems. That is the hope.
Reaching Mercury?
I don't want to fly to different planets.
You don't want, but like there are a lot of people who want.
Yeah, silly. Yes.
Yeah. Silliness.
Yeah, silly, I would think.
Yeah, we'll talk about this topic later. Nice. So now we have we created AI. Now we are working on AGI. Like especially our lab are working on this. But we are not going to talk about it. It's a secret.
You can tease it, no?
Yeah. And hopefully we will change the world.
To the better, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully
that's what I would hope, right?
Yeah. We have some...
But we have, in the last episode, we have discussed this quite a bit already, right? All the negative consequences.
Yeah, exactly.
That can happen by misusing these powerful AI tools. Already now they are being misused for manipulation purposes and also for warfare purposes, unfortunately. And so this will be not... The world will have to deal with this, and we'll have to be more honest and explicit about it, that this is a huge problem and this will not go away. This will just get worse when this AI will get even more powerful. Nonetheless, we are facing such humongous worldwide problems that with that structure that we have created in our world, there's no way back, basically, right? So that's the other issue that we should be honest about. There is only a way forward, and I hope that most people in this world think that the way forward is towards a more stable, balanced system for all humans that live on this planet, and that's hopefully what we can use AGI for in much more dedicated manners than we can use current AI for already to help us.
And this is what I like we have to stand and take our responsibilities and be responsible of our work, our purpose. It's not just like creating AI. We should also work on the ethics and the potential manipulations.
Right. I mean, many researchers are trying to do this, and we are part of it to a certain extent. Only there is so much time that you really can work on this, right? And there is only so much time that we as researchers really have, right? So we should be aware of that, the people that are really in power, right, and are really making worldwide and nationwide laws, need to be involved in this, and need to be really take that responsibility that they were elected for, or that they just maneuvered to be in.
It's not just for money, it's and for control. It's also like for humanity's welfare, and this is like we have already like in our lab like some manipulation, metacognition, and confidence projects also, like we are working on.
Absolutely, you are working on it.
We
and a few others
of course. This is one of our main projects in the lab.
Absolutely.
The question now, like we created the AI, we are now trying to work on creating and inventing the AGI, but the ASI, the Artificial Superintelligence,
right?
Is it us who will invent this or no?
I don't think so.
No. Why? Who is gonna invent this?
Yeah, hopefully nobody really. But or I mean, so what is it really? What does this superintelligence now mean, right? I mean, in the end, this is like an AI that starts to create even smarter AIs, right, by itself, right? Yeah. You can think of us humans now creating an AI, right? If the AI has a particular purpose to foolish things like this, like rule the world, or right, be the god of the whole humankind, or
the controller,
or even or even fly to Mercury, and build colonies over there,
and
like,
say goodbye for us.
its own sake, right? That's why it's so silly. But that, right, that is will be the problem, that it's in principle imaginable that this AIs just totally derail, basically decide on themselves. Now it's time for me to take over everything.
And then AGI will create the ASI.
And that is a concern, that an AGI could create such a, or could develop into an ASI system, into a system that just derails, right? And has whatever goals that are not human compatible, and because it's so powerful, it's so much smarter than us humans, maybe solves a couple of human problems on the way, right? But just totally blows off and goes on to solve its own decided problems, whatever they are. Maybe it wants to grow and get more energy, and so creates the whole, changes the whole planet into a solar power plant or whatever, that where there's no more space for crops, because it needs to have all the sun for its own sake, right?
Yeah, so, and now we become the pets.
And then we become the pets, or we become just waste for it, right?
As Matrix movie.
I mean, pets would be at least still something where we could live by, maybe, but if we just waste, then the space of this earth will have no possibility for human inhabitants, or no space for that.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully we'll. Like we are hoping to be pets. So, like, there is always...
I don't hope to be pets, I still hope to be humans that can flourish and work out and live their dreams, and have their own creations with support of AI in most likely case, but that we have to steer towards, and we have to control this, and not let the AI suddenly derail and just decide to control its own sake. So that's why I think also it's really important that the AI AGIs, or the even more powerful AIs that we are working on, don't have a purpose on their own sake besides information provision, for example, besides thinking things through for us. But also there already you have this little twist in the AI that is a general problem, that, right, if you give the AI a purpose, say for example really the purpose is to inform humankind and to make us smarter and more intelligent.
And solve and treat all diseases.
And meanwhile treat all diseases and solve other problems in this world, so forth. So to achieve this, right? There's, for example, the first simple thing is, if you give the AI this purpose, and maybe because we're worried and so forth, right? We have created a switch, right, to switch it off in case it decides to go bonkers, right, on the way, right? I mean, the first goal of this AI that has this purpose to make all humans smarter, right, would be, because to serve its purpose, it certainly should not be switched off. So the first thing that such an AGI maybe would do is to disable that switch.
Cancel it.
Cancel it, right? It definitely doesn't want to that switch, because if somebody presses that switch, I cannot make the human smarter. And so it will certainly make sure that that switch is deactivated very soon.
It will exist, but it doesn't work.
Yes, it will, most likely it will still be nicely blinking and make us humans calm and happy, right?
We have it.
We have the control.
When one of us decides to go and unplug it, like the AGI will come and say, "Ha, I know." And this is like leads me to the last question of this episode. We always have the ethical questions about like AI and AGI, and like, do we need this system? Are we gonna regret? how to like control it, what are the limitations that we have to like stick to. Do you think AGI will regret in the future that it invented the ASI? Because like AGI will also become a pet.
It's an interesting question. Well, will we regret it? Yeah. Will the next level regret it? I mean, then you're in this intelligence super loop, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing with the purpose, really, right? And that's very difficult to imagine, and that's why I say, like, we and others say, like Stuart Russell and others, right? So that you have to be very careful what purpose you put into these machines now.
Yeah.
Right? And because if that purpose starts to recursively decide on bigger purposes or other purposes or fundamental purposes to achieve the purpose that was programmed in, then the systems can derail in principle, and we have to be careful with this, and because otherwise, in fact, and it might be that this AGI then, in fact, creates another stronger AGI or ASI then that, denies its original purpose in the end, and then. If it's happy or not, I don't know. I don't know if these systems can be happy in the end, right? I mean, if they're just full rational agents that just go for their purpose, right?
Yeah.
Then they're not never happy, but they just have this need to fulfill their purpose, and so that's why putting in purpose is very dangerous. And so ideally one finds a way to generate limits on this purpose creation, and in general tell maybe also the system something that, so ideally not giving it some of these human properties, right, that are something like that we want to be show-offs, right, we want to be famous, and we want to have a meaning in our lives, and it will be very tricky, and one needs to think also further about this. What are the purposes we can give machines? Ideally, they should not be egocentric. Ideally, they should never create the need or the drive to reproduce themselves or become even more powerful.
Yeah, just the purpose.
Right? They should serve us humans.
Yeah.
And serving humankind, ideally, maybe something like giving it an uncertainty about what is good for us humans, and basically have the main purpose to be evaluated by humanity on ideally probably a longer term level. Something like this are ideas that can stabilize the systems and will not allow them to derail it.
Hopefully, we will reach this and understand that it is our purpose to create this kind of limited purposes.
A limited purpose system, yes.
Yeah,
right.
limited purpose system. Yeah. This is like, and like now I'm trying to imagine, like, and I would love to write like a conversation between an AGI or the AGI and a humankind that are talking about their regret of like leading the creation of the ASI, like in a jail maybe.
Well, you're giving good food for novels, for sci-fi stories.
Yeah.
There are some out there that are already going in this direction, of course, also. And hopefully we find a way to maneuver us in that, where we never have to really talk about the regret.
Hopefully. Martin Boots, The professor, thank you for your time today. It was a very nice conversation about AI, AGI, and ASI.
Thank you, Muda, for leading it. It's super fun. And you guys take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.